Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
8 years ago, we had a seminar, as usual, this seminar, and there was 3 guys, a Swiss guy, a Lebanese guy, and a Canadian guy. The Canadian guy is the picture in the left-hand corner next to the blank picture. And I called him Obama because he looked like Obama. And they came into my office the last day, and they presented me with this 50 cal bullet. And they said that they didn't learn much at the seminar because they had done what you guys are supposed to have done, studied all the material, right? And they felt sorry for the rest of the class because of they were idiots, imbeciles. And they didn't know, this was 8 years ago, they didn't know how I could put up with the stupidity. And you're gonna figure that, by this afternoon, you're gonna ask yourself, how can he have done this 30 fucking years? It's like training a Down syndrome kid when he's 3 years old. And he stays 3 years old. That's the equivalent of me teaching you. Down syndrome kids, and I'm not making fun of Down syndrome kids, they only get to a certain level, right? Same for you. Most of you passed your apex long time ago. Apex meaning the top. So they gave me this bullet and they said, they boasted, and the one guy, the Lebanese guy from Canada, was about 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", weighed about 300 pounds with 5% body fat. He was a lifter, a power lifter of some note. Obama was kind of a skinny black guy, you know. He's 1/4 black. So you're still black, right? Okay. But he admitted he was still black, okay? And the Swiss guy was a pretend Swiss, but he was really an American from Alaska. But he had moved to Switzerland. I don't know why. Our filing system wasn't as good 8 years ago as it is today, and the kinds of questions we ask you. And they all said, we want to give you this because if we don't perform at the highest level and easily get up there, we want you to, and at that time I had a 50 caliber, by the way, we want you to put this bullet to our fucking head. They were serious. And I would have done it. I would have taken him someplace. We would have gone someplace where I could get away with it, and I would have put a bullet right through the motherfucking head. And a 50 cal can easily go through 3 heads at a time. Easy. Well, the one of the 3 came back to the seminar 2 seminars ago. The Lebanese guy went to jail in Iran because he was Muslim, and the Iranians thought the QLA was the Ayatollah himself, whoever it was then. It was if you remember, the guy that was the president, the little guy that used to wear a suit, and he supposedly had body odor, and he had a big mouth. He's gone now, but put my kid in jail. And the American Swiss we never heard from until he came back to the seminar 2 seminars ago. Well, I remembered him instantly. So when I came out of the seminar, I came out with this, and he was sitting right, I think, one of those 2 seats. Remember this? He goes, no. And he had already been telling everybody the first night, like last night, the bullshit you give each other. He was in a different place in life 8 years ago. Bullshit. He's a cunt, just like you. Just like the one brother that fell off the rails within 48 hours of leaving here. So this bullet, the big Lebanese kid that went to jail, he was in jail 6.5 months. And he said, I learned to go to sleep with hearing other people, little shits like some of you in here, crying because they were getting raped every night 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 times. So I got used to the screaming and crying, help me, help me, help me. And because he was 6'7" or whatever, 300 pounds, everybody left him alone. Everybody left him alone. And while the Obama did the first $500 million Canadian weed deal to go public when they legalized it in 2017 or 18, whenever it was, And in fact, he and I worked temporarily on a couple of deals that I wanted somebody's honest opinion and not a PwC opinion or Deloitte opinion. He's a very sharp guy. And he made it to the Hall of Fame in about three and a half years. And then the other guy, the pretend guy from Switzerland, he came back to the seminar. Well, after I flushed it out the first morning, like I'm doing now to you, he was as quiet as a church mouse. So from the first night, like last night, everybody bullshitted each other. Now, you came when the 14-year-old was here. And I always ask the 14-year-old, first of all, I'd say, don't mix with these guys because they're all losers. But I always ask the kids, and the youngest kid that we've had here is 13, and the essence of what their feedback to me is they all talk about shit they haven't done, but they're gonna. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. I was gonna fuck Miss America, but I mean, the cab didn't show up. Bullshit. And the longer you're here, the more you bullshit each other. But most of you in this room are going to get this, metaphorically speaking. A bullet in the fucking head. Because like the one brother that he knew that it was his roommate from March of 2022, there's something within your DNA, there's something within your backgrounds, coupled with your cunt-like DNA from your parents and grandparents, that you'll figure out a way not to go forward and follow the steps. I said last night in a passing, quickly before Raymond got up, that you're going to skip to the getting your dream team step. You're going to skip all the others, building your personal foundation. And really what building your personal foundation is growing a set, growing some sacks. For the women, I don't know what the equivalent of, but growing some balls. In 1993, I gave a speech at the Harvard Club. And I started the seminars in May of 93, so this was about November-ish of 93. And I went, and they asked me, one of the guys, Ted Turner was on the dais that day. And I didn't like Ted Turner until I heard him speak. And then I had a lot more respect for him. So I was up next on the dais. And so I was asked during the Q&A question portion, Mr. Peña, balls and brains, what's the ratio for you? And I mistakenly said then, 90-10. 10% brains, 90% balls. But really it's 99-1, as Raymond said yesterday. It's that 1% perspiration, as opposed to Edison said 10% perspiration, but as Raymond reminded me, he was a genius, so he didn't have to perspire as much because a lot of this stuff came naturally to him because he was gifted. There's no gifted fuckers in this room. And I've had one gifted guy in 30 fucking years. But I keep this up here now to remind myself. I never forget anything, though. I don't have a photographic memory, but I have an almost photographic memory. I would have gladly done it. One of them made it. And the one spent 6 months plus in jail. And he says, thank God that he used to be big and fat. And I used to be fat when I was little. And they always say you're big boned. What a load of shit that is. We got a lot of lard asses in here, and I don't see anybody big boned. Talk is fucking cheap. It's fucking cheap. And we have some repeats. We've had people here at this seminar come 12 seminars in a row, and I don't give any discounts. Skipped the 13th and then came to the hardcore. And he was German. He was a rocket scientist, a Jew, graduate of the Max Planck Institute of Nazis. And he heard 7 or 8 Germans at the hardcore, all speaking German They had all done deals. He had written formulas why you couldn't do it. And he said, I guess you can do it. He has now made several hundred million euros, and he's on the Hall of Fame. But it took him, he was the 13-year guy. We used to use his webinar, but now it's 5 or 6 or 7 years old now, and so it's, yeah. But, so the 13th seminar got it. We have a lot of people that have come. Marcus Bauer has come 7, 8 times. And some people get it without ever coming here. But 100% of the time, as I alluded to last night, it's because the people that get it quicker are the people that put themselves out of their comfort zone quickest. Being comfortable, being uncomfortable. So I told you to look at the stuff Dan does the extreme. Nobody in this fucking room's done any of those things. Maybe one of the 31 or 32. Nobody's jumped off a 68-foot dam where there's no fucking water at the bottom. Nobody. Nobody's jumped out of a car going through Malibu Canyon at 55 miles an hour just to see if I'd bounce. Nobody. Nobody's been run over by a motherfucking buffalo. Nobody. Nobody's killed a fucking black bear with a knife with his bare hands. Nobody. But I've always been attracted to those things. And somebody else in this room, my biggest regret is I'm a highly trained combat officer that's never done combat. That's my main regret. My second regret is that my mom, I told her the night before she died, Mom, God, don't be a cunt. You're not sick. You're not going to die. Next morning, she's dead. I'd like to have that one back. And the third is I didn't set my goals high enough. Well, if I didn't set my goals high enough, where the fuck are you? Because you don't take it serious. You don't take it serious. It would be very easy for Raymond to stop after 10 months, 20 months, 30 months, 40 months, but he didn't. And these people that, after Raymond, you're going to see a series between 10 and 15 webinars of people that have come here on their own nickel. And a couple of you will ask during the webinars them, why are you doing this? I'd like to give back because Peña changed his life or her life. Just think of this 50 cal bullet though. And these guys were all bright. And brightness hurts you. The more degrees you have, the harder this is. In most cases, the more success you have, the harder this is. Although a couple of you got a few million, so you know where to go to get the money if push comes to shove, even though the model is built for zero money and zero talent. This is the no money down, $50,000 house that you used to be able to buy. Now it's $250,000 that you've seen the commercials on TV for 30, 40 years. It's that simple. When I read your homework today, today it's going to be a little off because I'm having lunch with Raymond, but I'll read your homework during the breaks. When the webinar's on, I'll go outside and I'll read your homework, and I'll know where I'll make changes to the seminar. And the seminar's already changed because it's focused on the things that you're afraid to do. The things that you're afraid to do. Now, it's no coincidence that my estate and Andrew Carnegie's estate are similar. It's no fucking coincidence. I spent my 75th birthday at Skibo, which I almost bought once. Long story, but anyway, I almost bought it, and then I didn't. And Sally gave one of the gifts she gave me for my 75th a couple years ago was to spend a week at Skibo. It's nicer here. It's better well appointed here. We dust all the fucking rooms here. And the only thing different about Skibo is the door handles are down here because Andrew Carnegie was a midget. That's the only thing different in the house is that the door handles are down here. And they keep almost all the doors open for a reason because they don't want you to notice that. We stayed in his daughter's suite, which has joined his suite. His wife's suite, you needed a long-range bomber with refueling capability to find it. They say he had sex once, and he had a daughter. And he said, well, this is fucked. He wanted a son. My wife can tell you that 3 times our 3 children were conceived. To the minute. The 3 times I was home. But it's not a coincidence. He's been they didn't used to call it that, my virtual mentor since before I started this. And when I discovered, while I was on Wall Street, that you could do deals with no money and this and that and without investment advisory advice and fees, and I went fucking bananas. And I went to the powers that be at the time, and I said, how come we don't do this? There's no fucking fees in it, Danny. We're not going to, this is money for used soap. I didn't know what that meant then, and you probably don't now. It doesn't matter. But you wouldn't normally give money for a used bar of soap in a hotel room, right? You'd call room service and ask for new fucking soap, right? And the rest is history. And the rest is history. I couldn't understand. And to this day, as I alluded to a little bit, I kept thinking, now I know nobody's going to come and compete because they don't do the numbers. They haven't done it themselves. But when we talk about goals and affirmations, they work. And this was one of my goals. And I made it my goal in March of 1983, and I moved in September 1, 1984 to this estate. Millions of things had to happen, millions of permutations. Now, the 2 greatest acts of quantum leap that I've personally witnessed in my lifetime, one, when Mr. Obama was a dopehead addict at Whittier College in California, said at 19 years old, high on whatever he was high on, and said, I'm going to be the first black president in the United States. Whether he was serious or not, I don't know. But lo and behold, he became president. Some people say nobody was more surprised than him. Not dissimilar to when Trump became president. That's a quantum motherfucking leap. Tens of millions of things had to happen, fall into line for him to become president, Mr. Obama. And the second, or actually maybe the first biggest quantum leap I've ever seen is when John Kennedy, who I met, one of the presidents I met, he said on his inauguration, we're going to put a man on the moon, land him safely, and bring him back in this decade. In July 1969, we did. We didn't have a rocket that could get a monkey off the fucking ground. We had no NASA. We had no infrastructure. We had nothing. And the generals, etc., and the Air Force and the Army went bug shit. And President Kennedy's a great guy, but he wasn't that bright. Just like you. And then we fulfilled that dream, that quantum leap, and the rest is history. This isn't my greatest quantum leap, by the way. I'm attributed to, rightfully so, I turned nothing into about 250 million pounds in 99 days when I took an option public on the London Stock Exchange. Something I didn't own, which is now illegal. You can't do it anymore. And these are the kinds of people you look for. You may not get Ben Carson or a Ben Carson lookalike to be your chairman. But if that's not the benchmark, the standard for you, you're pissing in the wind. And I understand for the gals, it's hard to piss in the wind. I'm not sure, you got to get your pelvis, I'm not sure how you do it exactly. But if you're not thinking that way, and so far the first 6 people I've talked to aren't even remotely thinking that way. But they've got 5-6 days to change what they're looking for. Now, if this was, and I was telling Raymond some of the stuff he's going to talk about after I get down this morning, I used to teach the class like he's going to teach you, okay? And a couple hours teaching you that is probably doable because I know he'll do a great job. But a week trying to teach you that way is you get hemorrhoids. And you're the fucking hemorrhoid. But change is supposed to work like this. You have an idea. You have thoughts. You have feelings. You have plan. Plans are great until the first shot in battle. You're trying to form habits. You make a commitment. You change your lifestyle. And then maybe you've got change. But when they talk about change management, guys and gals, they were talking about changing management. Everybody got blown out. And they brought new management in. That's not what change management is today. They're going to try to convince, and you're going to try to convince, you're kind of going to try to cajole, bullshit people to come on your dream team when you don't know cock. And no matter, even if you have the templates, I'm not Dan. I told somebody last night, if you're 5% of me, you're a billionaire. 5%. There's not many people in this room, if any, that think they can be 5% of me. That's not my problem, is it? That's your problem. I already told the people that are coming back for a second and third time, I wasted your money. Nothing's going to change. Nothing. And those of you of the Dutch numbnuts that have band together, if the leader's brain dead and you follow him, you're brain dead. Doesn't matter. Because that's not life. This is a guy up in Washington State. Every morning, this pelican comes to say hello to his buddy there, and they snooze. I guess chilling, that's chilling, right? If life were like that, we wouldn't have a person like me or Steve Jobs. 4 or 5 years ago, when Sally and I were going to get on the Orient Express, which is a great experience, I recommend it highly, very expensive. There's only one bar car and 2 suites. Okay, so we had the suite, but it looks just like in the movies. And before we stopped at a city, Verona, I think it was, and you have to hike about 3 or 4 kilometers up a hill to the Roman villas. And after about 40 minutes, we hadn't been served yet. And Sally says, I think we're chilling. I said, why? She says, Dan, you haven't looked at your watch. How long have we been here? Just over 40 minutes. I went fucking nuclear. I ran up an extra 40 yards, 50 yards to where they're serving drinks. I make a big scene. I throw a tray on the fucking floor. We had a drink in about 45 seconds. So I've chilled. And when my lovely wife reminded me of it, I don't like it. Because that's wasting time. But this isn't life. This isn't life. I've been saying the same thing for 30 years. That everybody's wrong about not needing money. You don't have to have any experience, etc., etc. Dream team, etc. Nobody listened. Nobody. Virtually nobody. Because I was telling unpleasant truths and you would rather hear comforting lies. You coming back for the 3rd time or 2nd, nothing's going to change. And I'm not suggesting you come back 12 or 14 times. But nothing's going to change. Because you have not changed your fucking environment. Most mothers are toxic. Not all, but most. I've been saying this for a long fucking time. And you all think that you're going to be the one little guy that outruns it. Doesn't happen. You're all going to fucking drown. You're fucked. Your 401ks for America, that's your little pension plan, is fucked. If you do a real net present value, it's minus. I predicted, if you look at the indices, which we'll look at a little later, all the indices are down the last 3 years, except QLA is up 125%. I predicted higher interest rates, which wasn't such a great prediction. The lowest interest rates in 5,000 years that lasted 12 fucking years. They were going to go at some time, but nobody changed. The guys that came here 2-3 years ago, they didn't change anything about that. And of course, I easily predicted the Bitcoin collapse. All those had somewhat of a rebound. And now, what's behind door number 4? I know what's behind door number 4. And you're all triple fucked. You don't have a chance, except for the QLA model. It's a secret. We come up with a slide here. The real estate, commercial real estate in New York City, Manhattan, has been down 5 out of 6 quarters. 5 out of the last 6 quarters down. There is enough empty space to fill 40 Empire State Buildings. 40 Empire State Buildings empty in Manhattan. Now, what do you think that if that stuff got printed on the front page of the New York Times? Sometimes you read a guy sold his penthouse for, $40 million or $80 million or $120 million, but they're not telling you that there's 40 empty Empire State Buildings equivalent thereof in Manhattan. First commercial real estate, then residential real estate. And that's how it's going to happen. 7 of the last 7 quarters in Mayfair, London, commercial real estate has gone down in value. 7! You can't hardly find that stat. I think I am the only fucker that reads this shit. I may have mentioned yesterday, which is one of my favorite, in April 2022, NATO, along with the IMF and budget, they said that a 3,700-page report, I'm sure I mentioned it, that we're at our apex, we're through, the world's through. You don't have to worry about global warming because we're not going to live long enough to see it. And these net 2%, it's all shit for idiots like you. Vice President Gore, who I've met, Sally and I met, I wish I'd come up with a scam myself. It's all shit. Yet the only thing that works costs 27,000 pounds to be here. And I was going to raise prices this year, and I'm only going to do it a couple more years. I'm not going to raise prices. You don't moan to me, but you cry and whine like a bitch that you can't find the money. Do you think I give a shit? I don't care if you sold your daughter. Most of you should have never had kids, and you should have rolled down the inside of your mama's fat fucking leg. Door number 4 is a motherfucker. There's a reason why we didn't go to Warren Buffett's this year, but we went last year. Sally manages a small portfolio for our grandchildren. It wouldn't be small to you, but it's small to us, which we have Berkshire Hathaway and Apple and all. So we went to his annual meeting, which is really it's like a cult deal. But it's interesting. Every 50 to 75 feet, there is a guard with an automatic weapon at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting. 50 to 75 feet, there's a guy, off-duty cop, sheriff, etc., National Guard, with an automatic motherfucking weapon. Now, why at the Berkshire Hathaway, for the grandpa, the Santa Claus of investment, do they need automatic weapons every 50 feet? It was a real experience. And they look a lot older in person. That was last year. And Charlie Munger is a piece of work. I hope he lives to be 125. But Apple and most of the big guys were all on cash. Sally and I have been in cash since I was 60 years old. Only morons worry about inflation. Like you. Your inflation hedges, do you think they're going to save your life? What are you smoking? Give me some of that shit. If it's not addictive, I'll take it.